everything that everything that I teach you here, everything that I talk about is all based on this book. Is all based on A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is a spiritual mind training that helps you to move in your life from an orientation of fear to an orientation of love. I have been a teacher and a student of A Course in Miracles for 34 years. And the principles of the Course in Miracles underlie everything I teach, everything I do, who I am in the world. It is a transformational work that when you start to practice the principles of A Course in Miracles, your life changes. Now, the one goal of A Course in Miracles is true inner peace. Because everyone is looking for this and this and this and this and this, but what they're really looking for, if you didn't know, what you're really looking for is true inner peace, right? So A Course in Miracles is a way to do that. It's not everyone's path, but what I have found, when I found it when I was about 18 years old, I realized it was my path. It was my path. And many spiritual truths and principles that you know already are in this book. I'm not going to go into the history of the book if you don't know the book. But I wanted to say that before I read something today. Because the Course in Miracles is a work that will help you in any and all areas of your life. Any and all areas of your life. The basis of A Course in Miracles, I've done this when I was 18, is that the truth, the essence of you is love. The essence of everything is love. That's beyond what can be taught. But what can be taught is to help you to remove the blocks to the awareness of that consciousness of true unconditional love. Take a big deep breath. So many things block the awareness to love's presence in your life. Anger, guilt, blame, competition, and fear. Right? I want to read to you today something, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what it means, because I think it's really valuable. And one of the things about A Course in Miracles, it's very prescriptive. And when I say it's prescriptive, I mean that it tells you exactly what to do, basically. It's not just doesn't identify the problem. It tells you, oh, here is the way that you start to use your mind in alignment with Source, God, Divine, whatever you want to call it, so that you can come back to that never-ending source of peace, of love. Okay? Before I read this, just say yes if that makes sense to you, if I explain that correctly. I think I explained it correctly, but if you understand what I'm saying, before I go in to read it. April says yes. One of my favorite mugs today. Good. One of my favorite mugs. All right. So, here we go. The Course in Miracles has three sections, basically three sections. There is a text, there is a workbook for students, and there is a manual for teachers. This is not a self-help book. This is not a self-help book. This is not a book you just pick up and go, you know, like great self-help people like Wayne Dyer or Marianne Williamson or you know, anybody. You don't just pick it up and read it. This is a study, and this helps you to change your mind, right? So everyone take a big deep breath when I read the next part. Here we go. This is from lesson 48 in the workbook. Okay? Lesson 48. It's Jedi mind training. That's exactly right. Lesson 48 is, there is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. The presence of fear is a sure sign that you are trusting in your own strength. I'm going to say that again because this is what we're going to talk about mostly. The presence of fear is a sure sign that you are trusting in your own strength. I'm going to come back. I'm going to read the whole thing, then we're going to come back. The awareness that there is nothing to fear shows that somewhere in your mind, though not necessarily in a place that you recognize it as yet, you have remembered God. And let His strength take the place of your weakness. The instant you are willing to do this, there is indeed nothing to fear. I'm going to read it through one more time. The presence of fear is a sure sign that you are trusting in your own strength. The awareness that there is nothing to fear shows that somewhere in your mind, though not necessarily in a place that you recognize as yet, you have remembered God. And let His strength take the place of your weakness. The instant you are willing to do this, there is indeed nothing to fear. Take a deep breath. We walk through life and all its successes, all its challenges, all of its ups and downs and ins and outs and blacks and whites and rich and poor and happy and sad. And we walk through life. And unless we're aware, we walk through life trusting that we are responsible for our own happiness. And the more we believe that we are, I'm going to talk about this more in a second, the more that we believe that we are responsible for our peace, that we're responsible for our happiness solely, the more we are heir to the idea that we are vulnerable. And the more that we are heir to the idea that we are vulnerable, the more we try to be strong. The more we're heir to the idea that we have to do it, we are responsible for our own, we alone are responsible for our own peace, for our own success, for our own happiness, for our own light. The more that we do that and we only depend on ourselves, the more we stay in this rat race of, I gotta do it, I gotta do it, I gotta do it. And if I don't do it, something's wrong with me. And if something's wrong with me, I better figure out what's wrong with me. And then if I figure out what's wrong with me, then and only then I can finally then do it. I can get back on and I can make sure that I'm okay, and I'll make sure that I struggle to make sure that I'm successful and I'm happy and I'm peaceful because I'm depending on me. Say yes if you understand what I'm saying. Because this is telling you something very different. Yes. Exactly what you're going through. Oh my God, yes. The presence of fear is a sure sign that you are trusting in your own strength. in your own strength. And as you only rely on your own strength, the more that you become vulnerable, and the more you become vulnerable, the more you feel you have to do something to stop the fear. That's what the world will teach you over and over and over and over. But here's the deal. The more that we do that, the more we stay in the rat race of insanity. And staying in the rat race of insanity, trying to make ourselves feel better, trying to heal our stuff, trying to stop being fearful, stop having anxiety, stop being poor, stop whatever it happens to be, the more we are in fear. And the more we are in fear, the further away we feel from God, from love. From love. There is a source of life that's a consciousness and an awareness that is so much bigger than your little problems. That is so much bigger whether you have money in your bank account or not. That is so much bigger if you get the job or not. That's so much bigger, now listen to this, so much bigger whether you live or die or not. And that consciousness of life is constantly, not constantly, in infinity, never ending. It's when we're cut off from the awareness of that presence, of that consciousness beyond who you think you are, when fear falls away. The awareness that there is nothing to fear shows that somewhere in your mind, though not necessarily in a place you recognize as yet, you have remembered God. You have remembered that this is just a little game. And trying, it comes back to that thing that I always quote. What Lily Tomlin says. We're all in the rat race. The problem is that even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So getting out of the race is the point. Getting out of the race is the point. So if somewhere in you, you believe and you know there is nothing to fear, everything's good. When you know that, you got out of the rat race. When you know that. Not when you think it, when you know it. So the whole idea here is, remember I said the Course is prescriptive? If you feel fear, it is a sure sign that you are trusting in your own strength. And if you're trusting in your own strength, then you're not trusting and doing the work it takes to stay in connection with all that is. Because you're trying to control. Control always leads to fear. Because control lives in duality. Control lives in win or lose. Control wins in success or failure. Control lives in I'm rich or I'm poor. Lives in duality. And when I talk next week on Tuesday night in the training that I'm doing, I'm going to be talking about duality. And when you live in duality, it means that you've got two options. You're either peaceful or you're insane. Right? And once you get out of that, there is a presence that is so much bigger that you look at yourself and you say, why did I ever try to depend on my own strength? Why did I ever try to make it happen on my own? Because if I could just step back from my control issues, I could let the flow of that awareness and that consciousness guide me through my life and be peaceful. So remember, whenever you have fear, whenever you are freaking out, it's always because you're trying to do it alone and you think you can do it. Well, good luck with that, because it will keep you on the wheel of suffering, as the Buddha says. The wheel of suffering. You have very little control. Why is that? The only real control that we have is what we choose to do with our mind. That's the only control. Our power of choice is our only true power beyond the insanity of this world. That's from A Course in Miracles, right? Right? Yes. Of course it stems from fear, because everything comes back to fear. When you are fearful that don't have enough money, that something's going to happen to your loved one, that whatever, you will lash out in anger, and you won't even know where it came from, right? So it's always giving that control, right? It's not giving. Now here's the deal. This is not giving control to God or giving it up to God. This is much deeper than that. This is allowing that strength of never-ending peace, that consciousness, that awareness that you might call God, I don't care if you do or not, allow it to run your life instead of you. You see the difference? And you cannot do this until you do the work. That's why A Course in Miracles is beautiful. Because as you do the principles, you start to work with them, you start to give up that